When I purchased the property in 2018, it came with a swing set about where the boat sits now. I don't have any kids or grandkids, so I really don't need a swing set, but I do need a greenhouse. Moving this thing was a little like playing giant Jenga, alone. But with the use of a dolly and my grandfather's breaker bar and skidder boards, which will later become my raised beds, I was able to get it into position. I dropped it into the foundation of what may have been an old outhouse, which is somehow strangely appropriate. The tower would become the tool shed and entrance to the greenhouse. Unfortunately, all I had were 5 thermal panes, 4 making up the green space of the greenhouse, and the 5th, the back wall of the tool shed. The dimensions of the greenhouse are 86 inches long by 85 inches wide by a headroom 86 inches. Floor is dirt. I did not pour a concrete floor. I want some flexibility in putting in irrigation systems. I experimented with a heat exchanger system. I ran a vacuum hose through the walls to a receiver up here. The theory was to use a vent fan to draw hot air from here, run it through a water reservoir or the heat sink, and then have it come out underneath this bed here. Now that was the theory. Didn't work. The beds measure 17 inches wide by 68 inches long. They sit on top of frames that are 20 inches tall. They're made out of 2x10s, untreated. The inside of the beds was sprayed with a waterproofing agent and lined with a weed barrier. At the head of each bed, holes were drilled in communication with a drain system. The drains run around the perimeter of the beds and are made from corrugated drain pipes cut in half. Isinglass was glued to the bottom of the window frames and communicates with the drains. Condensate forming on the window panes is carried into the drains using the isinglass. This time of year I have a 100-watt dryer vent fan attached to a thermostat to help hold down the temperature. I keep track with the temperature remotely through this device here, and the receiver is in the kitchen so I can tell at a glance what the temperature is down here. These hangers and corresponding members on the other side are for planters that can hang right here. During the winter, temperatures up here are in the 70s and 80s, which are perfect for growing lettuce, microgreens, mesclun, any kind of leafy green. The speakers are kind of overkill. They're salvaged from an old high school. I had them, they didn't cost anything, so I put them in. I have one in the solar shed, one in here, and 2 outside. There is 8 feet 9 inches of headroom in this tool shed. The main beam is actually part of the old swing set. As I stated earlier, I only had enough thermal panes to do about 89 inches of greenhouse. I didn't want to cut the main beam of the swing set. It was, well, one thing would have been a pain in the ass, and another thing is just a waste when it can just as easily be stuck into the tower and used to hold the whole structure together. It also gives me the option, if I can find additional thermal panes, to lengthen the green space. My first attempt at a thermal barrier between the greenhouse and the tool shed was isinglass cut into strips and layered in such a way as to, theoretically, provide a thermal barrier. It didn't work. It looked nice, but it didn't work. So finally I settled on this magnetic sealed product, and it just works great. I wired up some LEDs into all of the compartments, the greenhouse, this tool shed, and the power shed next door, wired them into a battery bank, and connected them down to these homemade switches.